Thank you. Thank you for your words. Dear friends, thank you for coming tonight. I deeply appreciate this opportunity to share with you some thoughts about several issues related to Mexico. But talking about foreign policy association, let me try to focus on Mexico's foreign policy, because there are a lot of issues to talk about it. But let me say that we, as a country, we are at a turning point, a point that will define the course of the future of our nation for decades to come. And my administration started to think with all Mexican people what kind of country we want to the future. And we agree that we want a safe country, a nation where our children can play and our families can walk the streets without fearing crime and violence. We know that that country is possible. We want a more competitive nation with a strong economy, capable of generating the jobs needed by millions of young people in Mexico. And we know that that country is possible. We want a fair nation without extreme poverty, a nation which is capable to eradicate the misery conditions in which lives millions of people even today. I know that it's possible to have a country that is able to equalize the condition of the people and where the gap between rich and poor is narrower. I dream with a clean nation. I know that it's possible to have a Mexico with responsible management of natural resources. We are working every day trying to build this nation. And of course, we want a more engaged nation taking a leading role in solving the world's problem. Of course, I would like to talk about any single goals that we have. Actually, we started to planning the long-term vision of the country. And even before my inauguration, we established a long vision plan, named Mexico 2030. And we are looking for that country that it is possible to build. But tonight, let me focus only in the foreign policy of my administration. Let me start saying that the foreign policy of the government is based on three main pillars. The first one is to promote the national interests of Mexico by taking measures to improve the well-being of any Mexicans in the country. The second is to establish Mexico as a country that plays a leadership role in international affairs, that lives up to our global responsibilities. And the third pillar is to promote Mexico's presence in the world. And as I said, I want more Mexico in the world and more world in Mexico. The key is más México en el mundo y más mundo en México. And the first one, to promote the national interests. We are working to attract more investment and expand trade opportunities for our products around the world. So the goal is to make Mexico the best country for investment. I don't care about China's opportunities. I don't care about the other countries' opportunities. I know that we have special conditions for produce and investment. And we are looking for improvement in the condition of Mexico in several fields. And the idea is that we can make Mexico a logistical platform that make opportunities for everyone in terms of trade and in terms of investment. Since last year, some forecasts of the world, for instance, Goldman Sachs forecast says that Mexico will be, by the year 2040, the fifth largest economy in the world. And I believe in so. That is absolutely possible because we have the natural resources, we have the people, we have the strategic geographical position, and of course we have the vision and the courage to build that country. And the world and the investment world is receiving the message. And last year, the first year of my government, Mexico received almost $25 billion of foreign direct investment, which is the largest figure in history, despite the operation of Citicorp in Mexico. It's the largest investment in our history. Let me tell you that by first time in history, half of the investment came from Europe instead of the U.S. Investment for Mexico, which is a very good news for us. And this year, in 2008, our exports grew by 17%. And especially we are trying to diversify the trade and investment of Mexico. And in order to do so, for instance, export to Europe grew almost 50%. Exports to Latin America grew by 42%. And this is a result of several factors, of course. But one of them is the strategy for trade diversification and investment diversification of the country. The second pillar is to take our global responsibilities, to be an active part of this new world that we are living. Because our condition inspires to my government to make Mexico part of the solution of the global challenges of our time. I believe that the 21st century came with several challenges and opportunities for everyone. And the task of our countries is to meet our global responsibilities. And we decide to start close to home. We decide to renew our relationship with Latin America. We started consolidating Mexico's presence in Latin America. And in order to do so, first, we looked and we got the leading position, the secretariat of the Rio Group. The Rio Group is the largest Latin American group in terms of Latin American countries. And in this capacity, we have played a very active role in solving some regional conflicts. For instance, in the summit of the Rio Group last March in Santo Domingo, we worked around the clock in order to reduce the tension between Colombia and Ecuador. And against any forecasts of that meeting, at the end of the meeting, we reached an agreement between those brother countries. We know that the security and prosperity of Mexico also depend on the development and progress of our Central American neighbors. And we started another initiative in the region. And that is why Mexico also assumed a leading role with Central America and Colombia. So we are promoting a new mechanism of cooperation. This group includes Colombia, the 6 Central American countries, and part of the Caribbean countries. And this new mechanism is Mesoamerica Project. Mesoamerica Project includes public and private investment in several fields, in infrastructure, health, environmental protections, and housing programs in Central America. And we know that it is possible to build a regional project of development. And despite the idea that countries like the United States, part of America, needs to see more carefully, with more attention, the problems of the region, we believe that it's possible to build a regional project of development, including several fields. And we realize that the nations of Central America need a lot of help coming for us and for other countries. And that is the reason why we are working in a health program in order to eradicate diseases that are similar than African countries, or diseases that is possible to eradicate. We had eradicated in Mexico already, several of them. We are working with private sector and several foundations, and we are very pleased that the Mesoamerica initiative is moving ahead. But let me tell you that our foreign policy is not limited to the regional stage. We are promoting more prominent role of Mexico in global affairs, because we want Mexico to be an actor in world affairs, not just a spectator. And it is why Mexico is put forward its candidacy to become no permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for the next period. Another key international mechanism where Mexico is exercising a new active role or a new leadership is in the Group of Five. The members of the Group of Five are China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and of course Mexico. These countries currently will represent 40% of the world's population. And now we are organizing and supporting the meetings of the G5. But especially, we are trying to organize the communications, the dialogue, and the negotiations between the G5 group and the G8 group. And recently, in the last meeting of the G5 in Japan, we facilitated the dialogue between developing nations and the G5 on issues as climate change, the global food crisis, the price of oil, and other things. And here is one of the most interesting for me and for my government issues that we are moving or pushing ahead. One of the most important of our global responsibilities is related to global warming and environmental issues. Usually, developing countries say that as we are poor, so we have not money to fight against the environmental problems. It's only a question for developed countries, so it's not our problem. We don't share that kind of thought. We have a commitment to solve global problems, and my government is taking serious and concrete commitments with environmental issues. We are pushing a national agenda against climate change. We have a strategy. We are the one single developing countries that are making our reports to United Nations about carbon emissions. And in particular, my government is pushing for, we are proposing the creation of an international green fund. And the green fund is a proposal in order to provide financial support to any country to have and implement a strategy against climate change. And I think it's possible to get money coming from all the countries, developed and developing countries, according to the capabilities of each one, in order to make some kind of order, in order to make kind of a global strategy about this problem. I am pleased that the World Bank and some of the most developed economies, including the US, are taking seriously this kind of proposal. Actually, in Japan, in the G8, G5 meeting, the World Bank announced a new fund in order to finance this kind of activities. And we are in a very close contact with the authorities of the World Bank in order to implement this particular green fund. Yesterday, I had lunch with the leader of the intergovernmental group of the United Nations against climate change. We talk about it and design a strategy in order to push the Green Fund proposal in the Copenhagen meeting next year about this. And now let me tell you about a crucial element of the Mexican foreign policy, which is the relationship with the United States. Of course, I don't want, and I'm not able to talk about this financial crisis you have right now, but we know that this is a defining moment in the U.S. American people, American society is moving closer to historic presidential elections. Regardless of the result, my administration will establish a close and fruitful relationship with the new President of the United States. We are waiting for the result of that elections, and regardless of the results, our willingness is to establish a better relationship with the new government. Because our nation has a very complex agenda, full of opportunities and challenges that we must address as strategic partners. First, we are facing an enormous security challenge. Probably is the most important problem that we need to solve together. My government is seeking to improve the cooperation between Mexico and the U.S. to fight drug trafficking and organized crime. If we are to win this war, we must work together as close partners. International groups operating as criminal enterprises along the U.S.-Mexico border are not only challenging the Mexican government. The U.S. government also recognizes that these groups pose a threat to its national security. We are paying a very high cost due to the consumption of drugs in the United States. We are facing a common problem, and we need a common solution to the problem. We are fighting against organized crime at international level, so we need international strategies to combat organized crime. And we need to solve together the problem, thinking that the only way to do so is to establishing common strategies and common effort. That is why the Merida Initiative is a very important step towards a new era of shared responsibility in the war against organized crime and drug traffickers. It is imperative that we find new ways to enhance our collaboration in sensitive areas such as the cross-border weapons, arms trade, drug use, money laundering, and others. Weapons coming to Mexico from the United States are helping drug traffickers to jeopardize security at the border and in all the country. We seized last year more than 14,000 weapons, since guns to launch missiles in Mexico. More than 1,200 grenades coming from stores, much of them legal stores in the border in the United States. We need to solve this problem. It is not a problem only for Mexico. It's an American problem as well. A second element in the U.S.-Mexico agenda is economic competitiveness. Our countries have 15 years experience of successful trade. 15 years of NAFTA. And I can say that the results of NAFTA for Mexico has been more jobs, more investment, and more benefits for consumption. We are reaching better prices and better quality of the products. And I can say that the American people, American consumers, are getting better prices, better quality, and more jobs as well. That the benefits of trade are benefits for all. And the route that the world and our region needs to keep is the route of liberty, is the route of market, is the route of integration, which is the only way to reach better stage of prosperity for our people. Despite the impressive success of free trade, however, we must recognize that the competitiveness of the region had failed. The North American share of global export has fallen from 19% in 2000 to around 13% in 2007. What is happening? We are blocking the ways to liberty. We are blocking the ways to the market. If we analyze what is happening in other regions of the world, if we analyze what is happening in Europe, what is happening in Asia and other regions, the integration process of those regions are faster than our integration process. Clearly, Canada, Mexico, and United States, and I really appreciate the presence of Prime Minister of Quebec here in this dinner, we, three countries, need a more competitive North America. And I know that the only way to get more competitiveness for the region is to find a way to get more integration in economic terms. So we need to work together in order to liberalize market, financial market, capital markets, goods and services market, and labor market as well. Recently, and you were talking about that, we are witnessed severe shocks to the United States economy. Despite the reasons, despite the failures of the financial system, let me tell you that the solutions, the long-term solution for all this problem could not be to close the border to the market, cannot be to close the economy to the market. I strongly believe that this situation should be seen as an opportunity to carry out the structural changes our economies need to increase their competitiveness by combining our advantages. Few economies in the world are as complementary as the Mexican and American economy. The American economy is a large economy, capital intensive. The Mexican economy is a short economy, or with labor, an economy labor intensive. It's a textbook combination. A labor intensive and a capital intensive economy make an advantage in integration. And the only way to make and to get prosperity is to combine the potentialities, the capabilities of both economies. Of course, the idea is we need each other to grow and prosper. And the idea is that NAFTA has been an example of the benefits of economic freedom. And the idea is we need to move forward. I have some concern because I'm looking in the American campaign and in the American public opinion that some people are not looking forward, they are looking backward. And the solution is not to block and close the border to the economy. The solution is to find a way to make a successful integration of the capabilities of both economies. We need to look into the future, leaving aside the mistaken notion that in difficult times, economic protectionism is the answer. Protectionism is not only a problem of some South American economies or governments. Protectionism, it's a problem as well in some sectors of public opinion in America. And my idea is that we need to reach the right way for integration. And the right way for me, for instance, is what can I do in order to attract more investment coming to Mexico in order to create more job opportunities for Mexican people in Mexican territory. I don't want to be a president seeing all the time Mexican people crossing the border. I know that every single woman, every single man that crosses the border is one of our best people that we are losing. Is our bravest people, is our youngest people. It's a father leaving their kids in his town, and we are losing the best of our generation for the future. I don't want to be a president looking the Mexican people crossing the border. I want to be a president looking the people, Mexican people, finding the job opportunities in the country. And in order to do so, I need to find a way to make our region, North American region, more prosperous region, more competitive region. And I know that we are losing opportunities facing China or facing Asia or facing Europe. And we need to recover that field. And the way to recover that field is to move forward in the integration process. Of course, this will be a very long time, a very long-term process. Meanwhile, we need to find a way to adequate the integration process in a legal and rational manner. That is the reason why that we need to find a way to solve the problem, in concrete, the immigration problem. Why? Because it's a natural economic phenomenon. It's impossible to stop such kind of natural integration. The Mexican workers are supporting the American economy. During the last decades, Mexican workers have contributed to the American prosperity. Why? Because labor forces, it's a natural resource. It's a natural force that contributes to economic prosperity. So the choice is not between immigration or security, or between immigration and prosperity. So the choice is between a future of integration and success and a future of distrust and resentment. The prosperity of Mexico means the prosperity of North America as well. The prosperity of Mexico, the successful of market and liberty and democracy in Mexico means better future for American people. And the integration process means better economy future for Mexico as well. So we need to look forward. We need to recover the spirit of the market. We need to recover the spirit of the liberty. We need to recover the spirit of the rational trade between our countries. Meanwhile, we are working really hard in Mexico. We know that we need to build the future, and we need to pay the cost to build the future. And that is the reason why, since the very beginning of my government, I started several reforms in order to foster our economy, in order to recover rule of law in Mexico. I started war against the crime because I know that the only way to preserve the future of the country is to make Mexico a country of rule of law, is to preserve the rights of every single Mexican people or every single enterprise that invests and have confidence in Mexico. We are making reforms. We made a tax reform, and we got revenues like more than 2 points of GDP per year, and we reach a balance in the budget. We are increasing the public resources to health, education, infrastructure, public security, but even with that, we are keeping a zero deficit in our budget. We reach a reform in the pension system of public servants, and we got to make this very difficult change from the old pay-as-you-go system in the pension system toward an individual account system. And that implies to save more than 26 points of GDP in public finance at net present value, which implies to solve the medium-term problems of the Mexican public finance. We reach an agreement and pass a reform in judicial system, and we are passing a new system of oral trials, which is fair and transparent and better for everybody in the country. We are moving ahead a new reform in the energy sector, but it is not for privatize partial or totally the sector. It's a reform to strengthen the capabilities of the public company, Pemex, which will be public company. And the idea is to strengthen the capability to have better contracts, to strengthen the capability to have better finances, to strengthen the capability of Pemex to produce more natural gas, more oil. I'm sorry if I disappoint some of you, but the idea is precisely to strengthen our public company. And now we are reaching an agreement in the Congress in this particular field. But the idea, my friends, is to make a new economy in the country, is to transform Mexico in the country that we want to have. We want a modern, fair, and safe country that no longer has to watch its children leave to foreign lands in order to find an opportunity to prosper. I know this vision is shared by many Americans, and many Americans like you, who understand that ensuring a better future for the U.S. and Mexico requires to build a stronger bridge of cooperation. Events like the World Leadership Forum are extremely important in promoting a better understanding of Mexico among key audiences in the United States. I know that only through cooperation and dialogue between Mexico and the United States, we will be able to move North America as a region to a better stage, to be the place it deserves as the leading, most competitive economic region in the world. Let us work together and take Mexico and the U.S. to a future of peace, prosperity, security, and justice. And thank you very much.